Hi there, it's that time of the year again. Time for another inventory check-in. I do these every 6 months, so I do them at the beginning of the year and right in the middle of the year. And I just go through each category and talk about how that category has changed. I show before and after photos of what it used to look like versus what it looks like now. I break it down by categories and then I show you all the total numbers at the end. I've mentioned before in past inventory updates the numerous reasons why I love to do these sorts of videos. They're just fun to watch. I love making them. I love watching them when other people do them, but it's also a really great way for me to regularly check in and make sure I'm just staying true to my style and what I feel comfortable with owning. Before I jump in, I'm just going to quickly mention how I count things. I do have a specific way that I do it, and I try to keep that constant over the years, and that way the information that we have, the data, is steady throughout the years. It just started raining. The raindrops are really big too, so they're pretty loud against my window pane. Hopefully that's nice ambient noise and not something that drowns out my voice. We'll see. Eyeshadow singles, if it's in a single pan on its own, I count that as its own makeup product. If there is an eyeshadow in a palette, I don't consider it its own product. I consider the palette its own product. So a palette is one product, an eyeshadow in a single pan is one product. And then after I talk about those two categories, I do talk about total number of eyeshadow pans too, to see if that number has changed. For products that are really small, they're sample sizes, if I can finish it within 1 or 2 uses, I don't count it at all. But if it's a deluxe size, something that would take a little bit longer to finish, I do count it as its own makeup product. And then for face palettes or palettes that have multiple pans of different products that aren't just eyeshadow, like this face palette from Natasha Denona, for example, I count each individual pan as its own product. So for me, for my personal skin tone and preferences, I would count this bottom shade as a highlighter, and then I would count the other 3 shades as blushes, because on me those would be blush shades. So this is 4 separate products, 1 highlighter and 3 blushes. So now let's just jump in. I feel like my intro got a little long there. I'm going to start with eye products, face products, and then lip products, and then totals at the end. So for eye products, I always start with brows. At the beginning of the year, I had 5 brow products. I now have 4. That eyebrow gel is not long for this world. I don't typically have a ton of gels. I usually just have like 1 in rotation. I like pencils. I also have a stain that I received from Wonder Skin. I haven't worn that too much just yet, but I am really excited to have it and try it. I finished the Ulta brow pencil. The little mini one from Winking Looks that I had, I ended up giving to my mom. Working through the POIT one, that's the one that I've been wearing regularly lately. And then I did just purchase one from AOA or Shop Miss A. Overall, this category doesn't really change too much. I think the most I've had in the past couple of years is 7, and the least I've had was 3. So anywhere from 3 to 7 brow products is pretty standard for me. Next category is eyeliners. This one has grown a little bit. I had 5, and those are the same 5 that I still have to this day, and then I did bring 2 more in. I have one from About Face. It's like a plum purple color, and then the one on the right, that silver pencil, that one is an olive green shade from Wonder Skin. Overall, I have 2 black eyeliners, 1 dark gray one, 1 dark purple, 1 olive green, and then 1 nude eyeliner. So even though I have 7 eyeliners, it is a product I wear every day, and I do like having a little bit of a mix of different colors depending on what look I'm going for. Next category is eyeshadow primers. This one pretty much stays the same all the time. I usually have 2 or 3 eyeshadow primers in my collection at any given time. If you look at that one on the left side of the photos, the Ulta Beauty one, I do have a fresh tube now. And then the one in the center from Jason Wu, that's kind of the one I've been reaching for regularly nowadays. So that tube does look a lot thinner than it did in my last check-in. And then the NYX glitter primer is a glitter primer, so pretty standard. I have an eyeshadow primer for any occasion I would want, and I do rotate through them pretty regularly. The next category is mascaras. I only have 2 mascaras in my collection right now, and the one on the left side in the newer photo, it's called the New Heights Lifting Mascara. This actually doesn't have much left in it. I probably have less than a week of use before it's dried up, and then I'll move on to the other Ulta one that I have. I usually have 4 or 5 mascaras in my collection at any time. I just haven't really had the urge to purchase a lot of new mascaras recently, so this is where I'm at with 2, and one of them is almost gone. Eyeshadow palettes also doesn't change too much over the years. Since the beginning of 2021, the most palettes I've had is 20, and the least is 15. So I have 17 now, kind of right in the middle. You'll notice in my photos that I tried to match the previous check-ins photos as closely as I can, and that way it's really easy for you to see the differences. For eyeshadow palettes, I typically have all the new purchases on the left side of the photo. So if you look in that top left corner of the second photo, you can see the Lethal palette, but everything else is kind of the same. Now if we look at single shadows, I had 34 single shadows last check-in. I now have 35. This has changed slightly over the past 6 months. I did finish 2 single shadows, and then I did bring in a few single shadows from Ulta Beauty. They were 3 lid setting shades, just with slightly different tones. And then if we look at total number of eyeshadows, I had 221 pans of eyeshadow at the beginning of the year. I now have 230 shadows. Now we're on face products. This is definitely the category in my makeup collection that has grown the most in the last 6 months, and just something I want to be aware of. I'm not like a big eyeshadow palette collector. I'm not a big like eyeshadow content creator in general, but I do love face products. I get really excited about them. And so I have 12 highlighters at the beginning of this year, and that has grown to 13. I didn't finish that one Charlotte Tilbury Spotlight. I ended up giving that to a friend. It didn't have a lot left in it anyway, so it's something that I would have realistically panned on its own. And then I brought in a face palette from PR, and then one that I purchased myself, and those each had a highlighter in them. I have a pretty even mix of liquid highlighters or cream highlighters and powder highlighters. Most of the powder highlights I have are just in palettes that I already have. And then I do have 3 single highlighter pans. There aren't any powder highlights out there that are enticing me. I know brands are coming out with those a lot more nowadays. That is not a category of makeup that I'm interested in purchasing more of. If a brand comes out with something like Becca Berlin Girl Glow, I might consider purchasing that. It's just such a gorgeous, unique shade, and the formula is so beautiful. But I'm pretty good with the ones that I have. Like, this is not one that I see growing unless I purchase more cream and liquid highlights, which I do really love. So yeah, this one hasn't grown too much. This one I'm a little overwhelmed by just because of how little highlighter I use every time I apply my makeup. There's a lot here. Some of them are minis though, and I will try to focus on those cream and liquid highlighters, definitely focusing on the oldest ones if I can, to make sure that I am working them out before they expire. But I don't assume that this category is going to grow exponentially in the future. This one has already grown, and I can't say for certain if it's going to stop growing. It's blushes. I just love blush so much. I love trying new formulas. I love trying new colors. Brands just always come out with such like unique and fun blush colors, and I eat it up. I am the target audience for new blush releases, and I am really holding back. There are several blushes out there I would love to go and try out. I just don't need to right now. And I have also received quite a few blushes in PR. So if you look on the right side of that photo, the newer photo, there are 2 Bare Minerals blushes and 2 from Lawless. Same with that Smashbox palette on the left side. That is also something that came in recently that has 2 blushes in it. I have purchased a few blushes myself, including that Natasha Denona face palette, which has 3 blushes in it. So this one just has grown. I'm actually not that worried about it. I love my blushes. I look at my blush collection, I'm happy. I like what I have. Next category is bronzers. I had 9 last time, I have 10 now. If you look in the bottom left corner, you'll see that the one from The Balm is gone. I did finish that one, and then I purchased the one from NYX from their new Butter bronzer line. And then in that Smashbox palette, there is 1 bronzer. This one also doesn't change very much over the years. Yeah, if you look at all of 2021 and 2022, I had 9 bronzers each check-in. And then I took it down to 6 bronzers in the middle of 2023. And then at the beginning of this year, I had 9, and I now have 10. So the number of bronzers I have stays pretty stagnant, or just stays the same. Finally, a face product category that has decreased in numbers, and that's face powders. I had 7 at the beginning of this year, and now I have 4. 2 of the ones I have are for setting my foundation, for setting my whole face, and then the other 2 are for setting my under eyes. I have gone through some of those loose powders that I had. I'm always curious to try new loose powder formulas, but the ones I've tried recently, like the last 4 or 5 loose powders I've tried, they have not blown my mind. And of course there are always new loose powders coming out on the market, and some that I am interested in trying, but I just have been so underwhelmed by the ones I've tried that, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm just good with the ones I have for now. The RCMA powder will outlive me. I'm kidding. I actually have finished one of the RCMA powders before, back in the day, and so I definitely could do it again, but it does take a long time. Like that powder, I will be set for a long time, even if I use it every day. The Pat McGrath powder, I love using it under my under eyes, but once that one is finished, I'll probably just stick to the Besame one. That one's been a tried and true favorite forever. And then the number 7 press powder. Normally I don't like press powders for setting my foundation, but I really like this one. This one is good. And I am glad to see that at least one category has gone down, because we're going right back up with the next category, which is concealers. I had 20 at the beginning of this year. I now have 25. I reach for a concealer or color corrector for like 4 or 5 different purposes. If I am doing my makeup and I'm doing a full face, sometimes I'm reaching for that white concealer to lighten my foundation. I'm adding a little bit of green to neutralize it. I'm using a color corrector under my eyes and then putting a concealer on top, like if I'm doing a full face, which I typically do. So in one makeup application, I'm reaching for 4 of these products out of this category. It's still a lot. It's still something I need to take note of before I start bringing more in. I have mentioned that I want to do a green color corrector best and worst comparison video. I'm not close to doing that. I want to fully test out each of these. So yeah, it's coming. I don't have a timeline. I really want to get it right. And there are even more green color correctors out there that I'd like to try. So we'll see. Stay tuned, but don't hold your breath. The next category has also grown by 5, and that's foundations. I had 5 at the beginning of this year. I now have 10. That Charlotte Tilbury one has so little left. I really thought it would be done by this check-in. I don't know if the lighting is going to let you see, but the amount of product I have left is right at the bottom of the bottle. Maybe a couple more weeks and this will be done. I don't imagine I'm going to be bringing this with me into next year. And then one of the foundations is a white foundation that, again, I use to color correct the foundations that I have to make them a little bit lighter. The 5 new foundations that I brought in, I'm really happy to have brought in. The About Face one is lovely. I love wearing that when I want my skin to look really nice, but it has a little bit of an olive overtone or undertone in it, which really helps to cancel out the redness without being too heavy. It doesn't have the best staying power, but it is lovely. It looks beautiful in real life. The one from Bare Minerals, it's a really good alternative for the Charlotte Tilbury one because it's also very high coverage, and I do prefer having some high coverage options even if I am shearing them out or mixing them with other things to get a more satin finish. The Cosmetics one I love. I've gone through I think at least 1 bottle of that in the past, and it was on sale at Ulta, so I purchased it. It's just a beautiful formula. I love it. And then I tried the Basma foundation sticks. I wasn't sure what shade I would be, so I purchased 2 shades, and those have been really lovely as well. I like traveling with those. I am still kind of getting used to how I like to wear stick foundations because that's a little bit of a different formula that I'm used to, but those have also been really nice. So I'm really happy with the foundations that I have. And then some of the older foundations I have aren't exactly the right color, so I'm glad to have these newer foundations to mix with them and just slightly adjust them to work better for me. So this is still a lot of foundation for me personally. It takes me forever to go through foundations, but I don't feel like I'm out of control just yet. There are so many foundations out there I want to try. I want to try the new one from Fenty. I want to try the new one from Urban Decay, but I need to stop. I need to just pause for a little bit, work on some of my oldest stuff, and then go from there. The next one, Old Reliable. I had 1 powder foundation. I still have the same one. It's the one from Fenty Beauty. Next up is primers. This one has also been dwindling, which is good. I'm not really someone who buys a lot of primers. I don't really get excited or worked up about primer. I did give away a few primers from Smashbox to friends who needed them for certain occasions, and I did finish the one from Charlotte Tilbury. Never say never, of course, but I just don't really see myself bringing in a lot of primers, honestly, so I can see this number going down, at least in my next check-in. This next category, setting sprays, has gone up slightly, but it's still a pretty reasonable amount for me for how much I like setting spray. I love setting spray, and I like trying new formulas too, so I have a couple new ones that I brought in. I finished the NYX one and one of the Charlotte Tilbury minis, and then I did bring in 3 new ones, one of them from One Size, and the other 2 are from Shop Miss A. I'm almost finished with the one from Milk Makeup and the one from Urban Decay. I work through my oldest sprays, and then as those are gone, I will bring in new formulas to try. It's kind of a rotating situation, and it's pretty manageable. I like having a lot of different types of setting sprays depending on the occasion. And since the beginning of 2021, I've had anywhere from 5 to 8 setting sprays, so that number remains pretty constant. Now we're at lip products. This one has also grown, not as much as face products, and I think a big part of that is because there aren't as many different categories. Like face products encompasses so much. setting spray, foundation, powder, but also highlighter, blushes, bronzers. Whereas lip products, I only have like 4 categories. Actually, I have 6 categories, but some of them can kind of be lumped into the same purpose. So for lip pencils, I had 18 in my last check-in. I now have 21. I use lip liner every day. Most of the ones I have are nude colors, and then I have a few more bright colors or more unique colors that I wear on special occasions. I go through lip liner pretty regularly, and I do have some that are really, really short that I could easily finish if I wanted to get this number down. I'm not super worried about it. Most lip liners don't expire super fast. This next one, I need to calm down. I need to be honest with myself and calm down. I had 25 lipsticks at the beginning of this year. I now have 31. I have received a few in PR, some from Wonder Skin, one from Bare Minerals, and then Charlotte Tilbury came out with another Pillow Talk shade, but in their satin formula, so I really wanted to get that, and I love it. I'm so glad I did. They had another satin shade that came out that I also wanted to get. Natasha Denona came out with a satin version of lipstick named Natasha. I couldn't resist. And then the one from What's Up Beauty, it's so gorgeous. I don't know if you've seen any of the people showing it in videos. It's got this gorgeous embossing. It's a beautiful color. I haven't actually worn it yet, but I knew I had to pick up one of those. It's so beautiful and special. But lipsticks are one of those categories that take me a long time to go through, and it is something that expires relatively quickly, so I just need to be aware of that. And I am actively trying to wear my older lipsticks more often with the hope that I will pan them and be able to work them out and focus on some of my newer lip products. So I'm not too nervous just yet. I love lip products. I love trying out new lipsticks, especially like satin lipsticks and different nude shades for me. But seeing them all laid out here, that was very eye-opening. That was something that I needed to see. My lip gloss collection has also grown, but I go through lip glosses pretty regularly. I wear lip gloss pretty much every day, so I don't imagine that this one is like a red flag just yet. I had 12 at the beginning of the year. I have 16 now. Over the past 6 months, I've finished the one from Jason Wu, the Mini Lawless Gloss, and the one from Huda Beauty, and I'm almost finished with the one from Rare. And then if you look on the bottom row of the second photo, those are the ones that I have brought in the last 6 months. I did receive some Lawless glosses from PR. I bought that Natasha Denona one, and then the Fenty one was a free gift once I hit like diamond or platinum status at Ulta, so that one was like a freebie. Not really a freebie. I mean, I had to reach a certain status to get it, so it's not technically free. But yeah, I love glosses. I love trying new formulas. I've been really getting into glosses over these past couple of years. The liquid lipstick category has not changed. I had 2 at the beginning of the year. I have the same 2 now. The one on the left side in the shade Palermo, that one is a beautiful cream blush mixer. I wear that a lot that way. I imagine I'll finish this before the end of the year, so this likely won't be in next year's check-in, and I'll just have 1 liquid lipstick. Tint and balms hasn't changed too much. I had 4 last time, I now have 5. So let's look at totals for a second. When we look at my eye category, that number actually hasn't changed, which I'm surprised. I have finished a lot of eyeshadow products, and then I did bring in some, so this number has stayed the same, but the actual products may have varied slightly. For face products, I had 96 at the beginning of the year. I now have 113. And then for lips, I had 61, and I now have 76. So at the beginning of the year, I had 225 products. I now have 257. That definitely is a big jump. If you look at the number from a year ago, the middle of 2023, I had 178 products. Last year was a really big year for finishing makeup. I had a ton of makeup that was almost finished that I just kind of focused on to work out of my collection. And at the same time, I was bringing new stuff in. I was bringing new stuff in this year too. I don't have a specific number I'm aspiring to. This was a really good way for me to see things on a broader scale and see just how much things have grown. I knew that my collection was bigger than the beginning of this year. I didn't know by how much, and now that I have that number in my head, that is something I'm going to carry with me when I'm considering purchasing new products. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed. My next check-in, my next update will be at the beginning of next year. I feel like a lot of people are doing their inventory videos right around this time of year, so I'm so excited to watch all of them. I love watching inventory videos. It's really fun to get a peek into behind the scenes of people's collection. I hope you are staying cool. We're having an intense heat wave right now where I live, and it's hot. So please stay safe, please stay cool wherever you live. But I will catch you in my next video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next one.